Hello, welcome back to the potting shed. Today I've got a bit of an unboxing to do because I'm pretty excited about this. I've just bought on the interwebs an Arabian Jasmine, or a Sambac Jasmine, or Mogra I think it's pronounced. It's a specific type of jasmine that is native to Asia, well, to the Indian subcontinent really, and I've been learning about different types of jasmine thanks to Nisha, who follows me on Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram, check me out, Houseplant Hacks. I put some pictures on there from time to time. It would be nice to see you on there, and you're always welcome to message me if you've got any questions or anything else, any feedback about the YouTube videos. It's always a good way to get in touch. So yeah, be good to hear from you. But on this one, yeah, Arabian Jasmine. I obviously have done a few jasmine videos in the past on the channel about my star jasmine, one of my favorite plants. I love the scent of the jasmine flowers. I'm a big fan of scented plants, and Nisha told me about this Arabian jasmine that apparently is really prized for its exceptional scent. So I didn't need a lot more convincing than that really. I managed to find one on eBay, or Nisha told me about someone selling them on eBay. They're quite hard to get hold of. It's certainly not one that you're getting in a garden centre. So managed to find a grower that had some available and managed to put an order in. It's taken a few weeks to get it, but I'm really excited because I love growing new plants, especially new scented plants, and just a slightly different variegation of jasmine is a fascinating new thing to learn. It's a tropical plant, so maybe a little bit harder to keep, which is always an interesting challenge as well. So let's crack this open and see what it looks like. Well, as you can see, I've already opened it. I was very impatient. Let me see. It's been pretty well wrapped. It's got some polystyrene in there to keep it from getting squashed. Get this out of the way. And here we have it. Obviously it's a vining plant like all the other jasmines. It's been quite well packaged. It's still got its little package of soil in there. And then it's got two, in fact potentially three healthy vines with shoots coming out of it, which is good. There's quite a mature vine on the left there. I'll show you a better look once I get it out of the packaging. But yeah, this bit here looks a little dry. The leaves look a little dry, but otherwise it's looking good. There's even a tiny flower bud on there as well, so exciting. There's some information here. We do have some care instructions, which is good. It's always interesting to hear what the grower has to say about the plant. Just remove the plastic from the root of the plant, put it in a medium pot, keep it in a shady area for 3 to 4 days. It's a good idea. A lot of people think that if a plant is stressed, then it would need sunlight to help it grow, but if it's been transported like this and it's been out of its normal environment, it's going to suffer a certain amount of stress. Putting it in harsh sunlight is only going to add to that stress. So keeping it in the shade while it manages to get settled in and adjusts to its new environment is a good idea. It's a good tip. Please use the potting mix in here. So it comes with some potting mix there. It's saying please use that potting mix. Don't only use compost, as the plant root cannot tolerate too much fertilizer. So it can get damaged roots. So you can buy potting compost, use half the compost and half sandy soil. And it says I use 40% compost, 40% coconut coir and 20% perlite. So he uses quite a well draining mix, which is almost like a citrus mix, like very open. So that's good. I like to use that type of mix on a lot of plants myself. So compost, I'll make that up because I've got some perlite in here as well and some horticultural grit here. It's always good to have, I've said it before on other videos, it's always good to have supplies of things because you never know what you're going to buy, and it's handy to have some perlite on standby. There's probably some down here somewhere. Yep, there it is. Got some perlite here. As you can see, it was 50% off, so if I see that, I'm always just going to grab some because I'll use it eventually. So I've got some perlite. Also got some horticultural grit sand, which is only just some gritty sand that has been graded and washed to make sure there's no, pathogens or any nasties in there. You could use your own gritty sand if you've got some. So I've got that as well. So I'll be able to make up, and I've got some general potting mix here as well. So that's what I'll do. It says it's not the easiest plants to grow because they originate from hotter climates. Yeah, it's a tropical environment. They do need a little bit of extra care when growing. They should always be grown as a houseplant in the UK and will do best in bright, warm environment away from radiators or drafts. Okay, so yeah, that's basically what I do with my jasmine. In the summertime, I leave it outside, but come the autumn, then obviously I bring that inside and keep it in my back porch, which gets all of the south-facing light and heat most of the year, where there is heat. And yeah, I think that's a fair thing to make note of. So thank you. Does it say the name of the seller? Doesn't say the name of the seller on here, but thank you for the plant. Let's get it opened up and we'll have a closer look. As always, I'm using my trusty harvest knife, my asparagus harvest knife that I use for everything. Link down in the description if you want one of these. Very handy. Literally use it for everything. Be really careful when opening this sort of thing up because obviously it's in this plastic, but these stems, although are quite new and will be quite bendy, you don't want to rip any of the stem off while you're opening it up. So just be really careful. Take your time when you're doing something like this. Oh, sorry, I'm turning my back on you, aren't I? Well, it looks like there's plenty of roots in there, which is good. There we are. That can go out of the way. Now, just use this. Always have this kicking about. I have no idea where it's come from, but I use it for scooping up an amounts of potting soil or mixing up potting soil. So it's just a handy container that I keep in the potting shed. Right, let's see if we can open the bag. And just be really careful with this part. I think I'm going to tear open the bag. There we go. I think it's been in that bag for a while because it's quite green at the bottom here, which is not a good sign. And he's been growing it in that bag because the roots have grown around the shape of the bag, so it's not ideal, but it's okay. We'll be able to give it an opportunity to grow out a bit now. So let's get our ingredients together. Right, I've got my sack of peat-free all-purpose potting compost. Again with the harvest knife, of course. And I don't know what the situation is in the US, but certainly in the UK, traditionally peat has been used in potting compost, but that has an environmental impact on the peat bogs of the UK, and it is better for the environment to use a different, more sustainable resource than peat, and I believe, if I'm right, it actually releases CO2 into the atmosphere as you dig this peat, because it has been taken down over the years whilst the peat has been forming. So it is a much better way to use something else. So there's a lot more peat-free alternatives available, so always better to try and find that, but that may not be relevant if you're in a different country. So it's going to take a big handful of the compost, and then a big handful of the perlite, maybe 2 handfuls of the perlite, and I'm just going to pour the grit sand in just to see what it looks like. I can mix that all around. Yeah, it's good. It's a really open, gritty texture now. I think it's going to do well in there. So let's find a suitable pot for it now that we've got the compost sorted. That's quite a big pot there, but I'm going to want to put some sort of trellis up, something for it to grow up as well. So I think a pot that size will just be handy for me, and I'll leave it in there for a few years. I don't really want to disturb it whilst it's getting, it's getting settled in. So although I probably wouldn't call that a medium-sized pot, that's probably getting on the slightly larger side, I think that will be useful for this particular plant for now, whilst it gets established, and it will give me room to put that structure for it to grow up as well. I'm just going to put a few pebbles at the bottom of the pot, just in there, just simply because there's quite a few holes in the bottom of that pot, and I don't want the water to quickly drain through. I want it to slow it down a little bit. It will still drain past those pebbles, but it just makes the holes smaller and just so slows things down a bit. So it gives the potting compost more time to absorb a little bit more water, that's all. Because it is quite a fast draining mix that we've got, I don't want it to drain so quickly that it doesn't retain a little bit of water. Make sure it's well mixed in the pot. Yeah, it's probably about right. Obviously, when you're planting it, you don't want, if the natural, let me show you, the natural plant line of the sort of the base of the plant is there, where my thumb is, you don't want to plant it up here. You don't want to sort of drown the plant in soil, because as that gets wet, you're potentially having problems. So you want to keep roughly the line of the soil where it was when you bought it. I always make a mess. So you want to just gently firm it down, but you don't want to squash the roots down at all, because you're squeezing the air out of the potting mix, and also you could risk damaging the roots as well. You also don't want it to rock around as well, so just a light firm to make sure it's in place, and then a good water afterwards should be enough to keep it where it wants to be. Right, now obviously this is a climbing plant, so this has got a long climber here. I may cut this down in time, but there aren't a huge amount of leaves at the moment, so I don't want to cut this down right now, because that's probably 60% of the leaves on this plant until things come out. There are some green shoots coming out from different places, so I'm sure we'll get plenty of different shoots in time, but for the time being I'm going to leave that on, and I'll get my structure and see what I can use. Got some garden canes here. They're quite tall. I've got a few different options. I've got these garden canes that I can make into a T-piece, like my a T-piece, like a T-piece shape, you know what I mean. like that. Like a tripod shape is probably the word I need. That sort of thing. And then it can grow up through there and just use it as support. I've even got some little clips that I can use to help it hold on until it gets its own support. But so I've got that as an option. I also have this. I don't throw away anything. It's a good tip if you're collecting and enjoying houseplants. Don't throw away anything, because you never know when it will come in handy again. And I have this wire frame that probably was on a type of jasmine at some point. Let me have a look and see what looks better. So we've got this one. I mean, this is going to be too short for that main one, but I will be cutting it back at some stage. That actually might be okay. Yeah, I think that's going to work. So let's put that one in as well. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the way. And then I'll just train it in all in between it, and this one's going to stick out the top for now, but it's supporting 3/4 of it anyway, which is good. And then I'll cut it back. You probably know this already, but if you cut back a plant, it will generally stimulate more shoots to come from below the cut, from the base a lot of the time. And so if you've got a plant like this which is long and leggy and has only got at the moment a few shoots, by trimming it back you're stimulating more shoots to come out, so you're going to get a more compact plant, a stronger plant, rather than a long thin thing. So it's a good tip. But like I said, for now I'm just going to let it settle in and gain energy, and obviously it needs all the leaves it can to be able to produce energy for the plant. So I'm not going to cut anything or touch it just for a little while for it to get its bearings and to settle into its new soil and its new environment and everything else like that. So I'm going to keep this indoors, keep it inside in the warm environment for now. It's still early spring here in the UK. The sun is out today. It's relatively warm, but at this time of year, by the time it gets past 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the temperatures will be plummeting again. It will get down to 0 degrees Celsius tonight. I imagine it usually does, sort of 1-2 degrees, and yeah, so too cold by a long way. But yeah, this frame is going to sink it into the ground a bit, but that is going to work absolutely fine. There we go. Right, that's it for this initial video. I will keep you updated about how we're getting on with this particular plant. I'm really pleased with it. I'm looking forward to seeing it grow, and I will do a care video and a general guide to this once I've grown it for a little while and figured out what it likes and what it doesn't like. But I hope you've enjoyed this initial look at this Arabian Jasmine. It's a plant I'm looking forward to growing, and I'll do a lot more videos to come about its care. We'll do some propagation if I can, and maybe even some giveaways if I can get that far. So give it a thumbs up if you like this video. Subscribe to find out more about these plants and all sorts of other house plants. And thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you again very soon.